Hey, how's it going, everybody? Welcome to another daily movie review. Today, we're going to be talking about the 1972 film Don't Torture a Duckling. Film is directed by Lucio Fulci, written by Lucio Fulci, Robert Giovanni, and others. It stars Florinda Bolkan, Barbara Boucher, Thomas Millian, Irene Pappas, Mark Porrell, George Wilson, Andre Orelli, and others. The plot synopsis is a reporter and a promiscuous young woman try to solve a series of child killings in a remote southern Italian town, rife with superstition and a distrust of outsiders. So yeah, I'm trying, every once in a while, just kind of go on a kick of trying to fill in kind of knowledge gaps. A lot of Italian stuff, a lot of the Italian horror stuff from the 70s, I don't have the most kind of thorough history with or understanding. I grew up watching some of it. Grew up watching some Argento. I grew up with Fulci's Zombie, The Beyond. But other than that, not a ton of experience with it, And I know those guys are more Argento, they're not really horror. Well, they're horror movies in a sense, but they're more just thrillers, serial killer thrillers and stuff like that. Don't Torture a Duckling is definitely in that vein. Fulci was the same way. He, did a lot of kind of thrillers. It seems like not so much monster movies, really. I don't know. We'll find out. We'll find out as we go through them. But, so I decided to check out Don't Torture a Duckling. It's been one of those things that's been on my list for a long time. And I was just scrolling through Amazon Prime, which, honestly, I really love Amazon Prime selection. And they always have tons of movies like this, movies that aren't just readily available on other services like Netflix or Hulu or whatever, because that stuff's more their original content, also more contemporary stuff. But Amazon Prime has a pretty deep library of random shit. I haven't even talked about them all because I watched one day. I had a day where I just chilled out. I didn't have the kid, and I was just kind of chilling out at my house for the afternoon. Mowed the lawn, did some yard work, came in, had 6 hours to myself, watched 3 random fucking horror movies that I'd never seen before from the 70s, 80s era, and had a great time. So yeah, make sure you check out your Amazon Prime. Some good stuff on there. Anyways, so never seen this before. Was excited to watch it, kind of. Been curious about it. And what did I think? I think overall, relative to what I've seen of Fulci's other work, this is probably my favorite Fulci movie. It definitely has a lot going on in the movie. It is not stereotypical or kind of heterodox in the sense of the type of thriller that it is. I've seen other things that are like it, obviously, in terms of what it's about, like small towns and social contagion and the way that superstition can play into people's perceptions and about what is good and what is evil, the feminine, the masculine, how do we approach each other, what is sin. So it's got all that kind of stuff going on, which you've seen kind of play out in other things, but I think in this one, it does it really interesting, and it definitely has that Italian or quote-unquote European perspective when it comes to kind of femininity and sexuality. There are a few things in the movie that I wasn't shocked about, but given kind of just recent controversies and whatnot, say something like Cuties, for example, there is in the movie, there's never sexualization of children, but there are characters, from the director's standpoint, but there are characters that certainly are sexualizing kids. One of the main characters, the promiscuous woman that they described in the log line there. There's teenage boys who look really young. They don't even look like they're they're teenagers yet, but I think in the story they're supposed to be 13 or whatever. She's constantly fucking with them and letting them look at her naked and all this crazy stuff, which I was like, man, this would not play well today. Not at all. You could not make Don't Torture a Duckling today, my friends. But yeah, so that's the basic story, is that just, there's a bunch of child murders going on in the small village and people are trying to figure out what's going on. And most of the time the movie actually doesn't pay attention so much to solving the mystery itself, but kind of examining how the town or the village deals with it all. What they think the motivations might be. What do they impugn in the people in their community? So there's like a mentally handicapped guy, a mentally retarded guy that they go to first. And he's like a pervert. So they're like, oh, is he like raping and killing these kids, or is he trying to kill them because they made fun of him or something like that? They teased him, They find him like kind of being a peeping Tom, and they chase after him and throw rocks at him and shit. So they go through that, and then they start thinking about it in more of a more perverted way. Like, are they being preyed on by a sick witch? There's a village witch. So they go after her, and they actually ends up being pretty rough what happens with her. But yeah, and then it has kind of this idea of what it means to be a woman and what it means to be independent, and how women use their sexuality and stuff. They kind of explore that a little bit with the witch, but mostly with the promiscuous woman that ends up kind of helping solve the mystery at the end of the movie. Because she's also a suspect at some point because of her proximity or where she was, and she is also known around town for being a little bit of a hoe. And she has a reputation amongst the young men for kind of being flirtatious, being a little silly. So they explore these kind of themes and what you would assume of a person based on kind of cultural identifiers. So you have the two women characters. You have the witch, this promiscuous woman, and they automatically just assume that this woman who has these different beliefs than they do religiously, or at least they think she does, that she must be doing it because this is obviously a force of evil that's controlling these sets of circumstances and conspiring, and the witch herself even kind of admits to it because she thinks she put a hex on them. Because as you find out, this village is small, like I said, and everybody's had a run-in with these little kids, this gang of kids. The little village boys go around and they create a ruckus, and they're always throwing rocks at people and laughing and playing games and pranks. And so everybody kind of has a reason to be kind of peeved at them to one degree or another, and she just thinks that she hexed them and she caused this to happen to some degree. She's not physically doing it, but her intention was to cast a spell that they would be hurt, or she would get her revenge in some sort of abstract way. And then that ends up happening, but she kind of admits to that, but the police are like, oh, well, there's not really much we can do. So they got to let her go. But the village ain't having it. They want vigilante justice. And then, so what they do is, spoiler alert, this woman gets killed. They beat her to death with chains, and they beat the fuck out of her. It's a really disturbing scene. And then she tries to kind of crawl to safety because they don't quite kill her. And then she's able to get out of the area, and she goes up to the highway, and she's trying to flag somebody down, she's, all fucked up, laying on the side of the road, and people and families just passing her by, not looking at her and then diverting their eyes. Because they know who she is because it's a small town, and they know what's happened to her, and nobody wants to kind of accept responsibility for the brutality of their choices, basically. Which, and like I said, I think it was kind of this direct parallel between probably domestic abuse, rape survivors, the kind of things that happen in small communities that people kind of make excuses for or decide to ignore. That's, it's something that's, pretty common. Seemed like a little bit of a commentary on that. Old Fulci, trying to add some layers to things. Yeah, and it's kind of a, and then it becomes a game of perspective, because then once another kid gets fucking doned, gets killed, the town kind of won't admit or won't deal with the fact that they killed an innocent woman. So that adds another layer to everything. And then after that happens, the story kind of starts moving forward and more earnest. It's got to solve this mystery. We got to actually get to the bottom of what is going on here. And the movie's paced really well because it's always introducing a new element. You can almost break the story up into kind of half-hour chunks, half-hour chapters or acts. It's a 3-act movie. And it's always reconfiguring your conception of what is happening, always recontextualizing things you've seen. So you are yourself as the audience is also going on this journey of thinking that the people that the story are presenting to you are guilty until it's proven to be otherwise. So it's trying to kind of get you to see the world, or maybe use your own biases against you in kind of a metatextual way of what you're watching. And it was really cool. It was really interesting in that perspective. I kind of caught on by the time the third act came around, because I was like, okay, you've done this like 3 times. This recontextualization, this twisting of the story. So, yeah. So I was like, I got you, Fulci. I think I know what you're doing. Especially after the stuff with the witch. I was like, okay, well, this is definitely taking more of an allegorical approach to the story. It felt like a little less literal. Because everybody starts feeling like an archetype to a certain degree. Whether it's like, the women and the way they act, the female characters, or also there's a mother character that's very like protective, and you don't understand her motivations at first. You think that she might be one of these killers. She's very religious. Her son is a priest. Which, spoiler alert, the priest is the one that's running around killing these boys. And he's doing it because of his own like kind of impotent nature as a priest and his like own lustful desires. And he thinks what he's doing is kind of saving them from themselves, from their baser natures, from their primal nature. He thinks he's saving these boys to a certain degree. He's sick. He's sick, everyone. But he's also set up to be the last person you would think of. And some of that is the movie cheating, because the movie basically does not give him much play until other than like in the beginning of the movie and then the end of the movie, when we have to like deal with resolving what's going on story-wise. So it kind of cheats it a little bit, because there was really no way you could have thought, unless you just kind of assumed right away, like, oh, it's the priest for no reason. And even when they actually reveal the priest, like I said, they kind of leave it for a few minutes. You're like, oh, is it actually not the priest? Is it his mother? But no, you find out that the mother knows kind of about it, feels guilty, and is trying to protect her other child. Yeah. Yeah. But I also thought the idea of the priest being... the young priest being the bad guy, being the killer, was definitely a little bit of social commentary about kind of, this is another mode of control, another mode of social contagion. People, it's like I said, it's about perception. So if you have like the promiscuous woman, you have this witch lady, you have this mentally handicapped guy, then you have a priest. We all have kind of cultural expectations for what those people archetypally mean and how they would like kind of engage with the world around them, and how we would engage with them. So we have these preconceptions about what those things mean. And having the priest be actually the evil one is because, culturally, especially if you were to think about it from 1972, in a small Italian village, he would be the last person they would look to. And then it kind of also goes down into, again, this kind of notion of the kind of abuses and the recklessness that can take place in the kind of insular communities and families. And how everybody kind of can turn a blind eye to it and lie about it, or just ignore it. Like I said, turn a blind eye. Yeah. So don't torture a duckling. I know I have given away the story. So I'm sorry. I did warn you a little bit, but it's a really well-made movie. I really love like just kind of the whole vibe and the tone and the texture of it. Like it feels really, it's very low budget, and it's made, but it's shot on like real film, and it's got that Italian movie thing where it's they do all the audio in post. So it feels very authentic Italian film. Yeah, this guy shot a bunch of stuff. What did he shoot? He shot Cannibal Holocaust. Anything else I didn't recognize? I really liked the way it was shot. It's got like this almost like kind of documentary, almost documentary-esque style, a little bit more cinematic than that. But I just really like the look of it. Maybe I'm just kind of a sucker for that stuff. Stuff just feels like it's real, like it's there, it's tangible, and it's all kind of shot on location in this village. Thought it was really effective. I really liked it, and it's also, you know what I also liked about it, appreciated about it, is that it's like a movie that takes place mostly in the daytime, which is, a lot of times thrillers, horror movies, they kind of use the atmosphere that you can create and the obfuscation of images and what you can and cannot see in the darkness at night. They'll use that kind of to their advantage. But I do like when a movie is able to just kind of achieve a sense of dread and tension during the day. It's kind of hard to pull off. As much as I thought it was okay, I don't think I've ever talked about it on anything Zoobox, but Ari Aster's most recent movie, Midsommar. While it's not my favorite movie in the world or anything, it's okay. The most impressive thing to me about the movie is that it's all shot in the daytime, and all of the character, and it's still able to kind of create this really foreboding sense of dread and tension, and it uses the daylight to its advantage to show you things explicitly. I would say Don't Torture a Duckling has the same kind of thing where it's using it to its advantage to be explicit about what you are seeing, to naturalize it. It doesn't feel overly stylistic. It feels, and that's kind of where your tension comes from. That's where the drama comes from, is just from the scenario and how naturally shot it is and how natural all that stuff feels. So it makes it feel real, almost, tangible. So definitely hats off to that, the kind of the aesthetic creation of Don't Torture a Duckling. Really liked it. It makes me definitely got to check out more Fulci stuff. Like I said, I've seen kind of his big ones. I've seen, Zombie 2, The Beyond, a couple others. But definitely don't have a very well-rounded kind of experience with his work. So after watching this, I definitely will be checking some stuff out in the near future. Excited. Looking forward to it even, you might say. All right, everybody. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. If you'd like to know more about Zoobox, there's a bunch of links in the description for Facebook, for Instagram, for Twitter, all that stuff. If you would like to make a request for one of these daily videos, throw it in the comments. I'll put it on the list. All right, everybody. Goodbye.